Let's talk.
Let's touch base. This is my really good friend, Carolina Doe.
Hi.
She is an actress currently based in New York. She understudied on Broadway in Grand Horizons and Linda Vista, and she is an activist. She's founded the Sống Collective, and we're going to talk about all of it. I'm going to kind of take this episode to listen a little bit because I think we can all agree that this week is crazy. And people don't need to really hear me talk about, they need to see me listen and maybe learn from that. I'm just wondering how you're doing and what's going on with you.
I'm gonna be honest. I just found out my father-in-law has the coronavirus, and he's in the hospital in Romania. So I'm that's something. And I just got off a call with a fellow Asian. I don't consider myself a leader, but they consider themselves a leader. And we're just trying to figure out as a community how to address the anti-Blackness and the racism that is within our community. And how do we dismantle that? How do we be better allies? How do we not think of things as think of allyship as transactional, conditional, and how do we fix our own traumas and our own feelings of hurt so that we can be better for people. So that's me. Also, I just made some fajitas, so
Hey.
it's been a day.
Yes, I am with you on the idea of learning how to be a constructive ally and figuring out the problems within your own community that create an impasse to becoming a better ally. I personally know that a lot of white people feel like donating $20 and sharing a Instagram story thread is enough. I know that's not enough, and I'm cool with being somebody who can say that they're not doing everything they possibly can right now, because there's so many different narratives telling you what to do, and I'm trying to find the most constructive way to contribute. And I love your fiance, by the way. You helped him with his self-tape a couple of weeks ago, right? And he put on like a tux. It was so cute.
Yeah, he's a good cookie. He's a good egg. He's from Romania. He's Romanian. He's white European, and he's been here for 8 years now. And so for him, he's learning a lot about America, as a whole and as a society. And having been through that process with him has helped me see my own blind spots and moments where I need to sit and learn and listen. Marriage is weird. Marriage is something that I think it's based on the individual. And for me and him, it just felt right in terms of we wanted to, on the bigger cosm of things, is that we love each other and we find each other, he's my person. Yes. I'm his person, and I love his family. I see so much similarity in how we grew up, and he's the one person who really sees me and also calls me out on everything. So that's on that level. And also on the other level, we wanted to get him and get that green card process through. I want to know about Mariah.
Mariah.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? I want to.
Well,
I popped in.
Oh, of course, I'm all right. It's been heavy. The days have been very heavy. And honestly, knowing that it's been heavy for everyone, there was a time where that would have helped, but it doesn't help anymore. Even today, I just watched the SpaceX liftoff. It just feels so crazy that we're already talking about colonizing other planets, and we've done such a terrible job of healing what was colonized here. So yeah, I just honestly, I'm at the point where I can't really be happy about anything. So yeah, like I want to be, I really do. But
yeah, I mean, you got to take your time and what you like. Well,
yeah, I'm processing still.
And also, you don't owe, I don't owe, we don't owe anyone anything to feel anything.
That's right.
And I totally feel you about the whole space thing. Like, I won, and I'm like, oh, cool. That's an accomplishment for humanity. But at the same time, I'm like, at what cost? And the cost is, it's not like we're going to go to Mars or wherever the fuck they're going and do any better.
Like it's not going to be like the enlightening process, you know. If anything, it'll be Prometheus and we'll be wasting our time. So
exactly. The way that the media sort of spins the advances of going to space is always been from an edge of competition and of ego, and there's a lot that is wonderful about the advancements that we've made, but I would suspect it's smarter to worry about the dam breaking open more than the fact that, like, yay, there's water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
just because a few are going to space doesn't mean all of us are going to space. And it might be me coming from a very like classist perspective, but it's like, how in any way does that help me or my people that I love? You know, still we're gonna be here. We're not gonna be able to pay for that thing. We're not gonna be the first, like, you know, say this lockdown lasts longer. We're not gonna be the ones that are gonna come out of it thriving.
Right.
You know, we're not working from home for fun. Like, that's some things where I'm just like, there are parts of me sometimes, the anarchist, where I'm like, let's stay on shutdown. Like, take yourself out of the algorithm and see what happens, because it's gonna collapse without the labor that is being like so.
Exactly. That's actually been one of the huge, you know, reasons why I've been like, you know, just kind of getting more involved with creative projects, getting more involved with creating, you know, creative spaces that are trying to give voices to those of us who would be shifted into working positions, who would be classed into and raced into working and labor classes for, you know, if we do start colonizing Mars tomorrow, let's say, you know, it'll probably look a lot like early colonial states, which is very, very wealthy, you know, white folks. And then you have a mass of, you know, workers, you know, for them. So however many workers one Elon Musk needs to, you know, survive on Mars, the capital will be our literal bodies.
Well, that's my biggest fear about bringing it back to theater, is that in Germany, I saw the pictures of what socially distanced theater is going to look like. And it's obviously like less capacity. It's like what the recliner movie theaters look like if the recliners were spread out. It's that amount of seats. And you have to wonder, how is theater going to survive the way it's always survived, with making those seats far more expensive, obviously, so that we pay rent for the theater. And who's going to pay for those seats but the 1%? And it feels like if we do that in America, it's a huge slap in the face to all the art that has been created that I've seen in the past year that has just completely sounded off on the very institution that it's creating art in.
I don't think a lot of old theater should return. I mean, if we're talking about the Berliner Ensemble, which was that picture, it's supported. That's something that theater in America is not. I mean, we can go dive deep down how shitty and how much theater exploits people of color, indigenous people, marginalized groups to tell their stories for their bottom line in terms of like grant and funding. You know, prime example, I'll probably never work at the Public, but like prime example, the Public, while like a very big like beacon for amazing theater that helps start the conversation, treats its workers terribly. People who are behind the scenes are not unionized.
Wow.
You know, they treat their like artists terribly. At the end of the day, they're like a multi-million-dollar run machine.
The name in and of itself indicates, to, the untrained eye, I suppose, like, oh, this is a place for everyone, obviously, like this is a place where anyone can, just come on in. It's called the public.
Yeah.
But even in my personal experience, I've still to this day, I've never even walked into the public theater. A lot of the times you'll have like a misnomer. The name will just be like, it's supposed to indicate that, it's open for everyone, but it's, yeah.
I feel the way about, Shakespeare in the Park, where
by the public
lottery, anyone can go to the park, but like, how many times do you find that you've had an off day to be able to go and wait in line?
Some people are employed to wait in those lines. Some people, get paid by, rich folks to wait in line, and I'm going to stand in line all day, and, you just pay me per hour.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. That's my new career. I mean, speaking of theater, my other one thing that I'm really pissed about is theater's not going to come back till maybe commercial theater, maybe 2021. And if we're looking at the bottom line in terms of profits that producers make, it's in the billions. And when this shutdown happened, there was a lot of like call for, donate to the Actors Fund, donate to this. Everyone, actors, give your time to help raise money for this fund, which is great because it's like, oh, help the Actors Fund, great. But to get money from the Actors Fund, you have to prove 5 years of work. You have to prove all this information to get the money. You get $1,500 if you're lucky, right?
After all that?
After like basically like having to comb through your like 5 years that you make at least $6,500. And I get it. I'm like, okay, cool. They have to have the vetting process, whatever. I need a transparency from that because there's been a lot of like different organizations toting like, oh, we just raised 250,000. We just raised this. We just raised that. Where's that money going? Is it getting to all the people and artists in need? And also, why does it have to be that all these producers who profit so much off of the backs of these people on Broadway who work, why are they only just matching donations? We have to get a grassroots thing of $250,000 while these 10 producers, Scott Rudin, who is producing everything,
literally,
is one of 10 to donate $250,000. Like, why is my friend, who is the fucking lead on West Side Story, still hasn't gotten unemployment to this day? Like, I think he just got it like a few weeks ago.
Insane. And I know a lot of people who are on unemployment lines right now. These are folks who expect the government and their jobs to not support them, basically. Who are just like, I know this is going to take forever. I already know because I'm a bartender, or I'm, or I work with children, or blah, 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 as if it takes a low skill to do these things. But if no one was doing them, we'd have a whole nother situation. We'd have a whole, we'd be probably praising them. Just to think that someone who at least has a, an idea that they should expect something in this time, just waiting like that, it's like, I'm hoping more people are seeing like, your job and all these things, it's not going to protect you.
I was unemployed March 1st. I was lucky enough to apply for unemployment because this was before everything happened, So I'm very privileged in that sense where right now I am the most financially stable I've ever been.
Wow.
Like with unemployment and the pandemic assistance, I'm making like after, like, I'm going to be honest and be like 525 plus the 200 plus the 300, so 825 a week.
Yeah, something like that over here too.
I have money left over that I've been like donating to grassroots camp, whatever. But then the pandemic thing is gonna run out July 31st. And there's a part of me that's like, you need to keep holding on to this money. You need to save. You need to do everything, because the career paths that I've chosen, because I work in the service industry and I'm an actor, are not coming back for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need to find a way to sustain that, and also find ways to be active and merge ourselves back into normalcy. I don't know how.
Yeah, but why is it that it took this pandemic for us to be in this secure, like in the past, like a secure place where I'm like, oh, I can pay rent this month because I have this. Holy shit. Without like, I remembered like up until I booked the 2 shows, like I was working while going to rehearsal, while doing all these things, like taking 3 jobs on the sides, emailing everyone, doing things just to barely make rent every month. And that was me thinking I was successful. I remembered after the show ended, I was like, oh, I have all these readings lined up. I'm hustling. I was reading this article by I hope I say
Raja Feather Kelly. He was on.
Yeah.
He was just on the show. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Who was like, I was priding myself on like the hustle, and we normalized that. We normalized the fucking hustle.
It's like I want to say like something like Stockholm syndrome or even cognitive dissonance that leads us to like, you know, where we have this huge bureaucracy of folks going all the way down to the actor or to the performer.
Yeah.
And all of these people are just like, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. And you have those same folks being rotated right back up to the top, and then we're just stuffing performers in at the bottom. So now you have to work hard. You literally have to kill yourself basically to make, you know, to act. And I know that they literally tell us that in Acting 101.
I would like to talk to Raja because we both recently just worked at the same theater.
Yes, that's right. Because we saw We're Gonna Die. Mariah and I saw that.
Yeah. And it's, you know, the aura of like, artists make this theater. Artists make the name of the theater company or whatever it is.
Right.
Are they asking us, are we okay? I have not gotten a single, are you okay?
Today was like the first day.
I've gotten nothing.
Something that we talked to Raja about actually was our experience with the audience of We're Gonna Die after Mariah and I saw it. And Mariah can talk more about this, but Raja was saying how he knew he was putting on a show that white people were going to see about a protagonist in a black body. And the white people around us couldn't help but go up to Mariah afterwards and ask her what she thought so that they could process it correctly.
It was very interesting. Like it was very targeted. We were not just like, you know, the most different looking people there. We were also the youngest folks. And but yeah, there was a lot of that, as Keith said. It was just like, you know, like, how did you feel about that? And I was more curious to know how these super old people felt about
it was about mortality,
about death and mortality and their own mortality. So, you know, I kind of just flipped the question on them. But there was a lot of that where it was just like, you know, I think they saw themselves in her and they didn't expect to.
Oh my God, what?
Do black people really go through that? like normal things?
They had to put themselves in another body's shoes?
Mortifying.
That's something that L. Morgan Lee was saying in our episode with her. She was in A Strange Loop, that we need to find ways to spin the wheel for other narratives so that other people can see themselves other than like in Oz versus Orange is the New Black. We put up a clip where she described that both protagonists are blonde and white, and there's all these things that even though Orange is the New Black is sort of the new wave for women, it's using the same system. And I suspect until we find a way to spin the wheel on the system, that nothing is going to change. Break
the table, bring your own table, make your own spaces. I mean, that's what I'm realizing with our collective, is that that's how we felt. I mean, we were each individually successful working in PYIs, but at the same time, constantly facing the barrage of just like aggressions, microaggressions, just not even micro, like just aggressions, outright, like having to explain ourselves constantly. I don't know if you have dealt with it, but like just having to constantly be a little ambassador for your community because these people did not have the time to Google.
Yes.
And I got to the point where I was like, I'm not doing the work for you. I don't have the time to do the work for you. No. Here's Google.
Please.
Here's Google, please. Like,
scholar. If you can't handle a Wikipedia article, here's,
I'm just like so amazed by the helplessness of some white folks. When, especially like with everything that's going on, how can I help? How can I be an ally? And there's moments where I'm like, good, I'm glad you're trying to, but then at the other time, I'm like, there's the internet.
It's vast.
It's vast. You literally, all you have to do is Google, how can I be an ally? And there are pages for you of people doing the work for you. Why do you have to ask these Black people, these people of color that are already dealing with so much shit to take time out of their fucking lives to help you be a better person? That's for me. I'm like sitting.
I've been seeing a lot of like crying videos and just being like, what do you want us to do? It's like, can you stop, please? Yeah. This is all a performance, and it's all this big act, which, I mean, I am like, give every, like, all these Karens need Oscars for the theatrics that are being put into, just feigning a threat. You're feigning unsafety and uncomfortability, and these are things I probably have seen in real time and haven't really picked up on or noticed. And then, we see these videos coming out and we're just like, what? like where you can like break it down and rewind life for a second and be like, that just happened. That just stinking happened. And then we have, on top of that, now that we have videos, it's like, okay, great, we have the video so we can like analyze real life now, right? No, now we have folks who, we have another, we're going on this path and then someone veers off and it's like, that's fake.
Yeah.
It's not real. Something that will just like, invalidate the idea behind the video and the idea that like, we're sitting here screaming like, stop killing us. Seems easy enough, and it's just like, well,
like my thing, like that pisses me off so much about the Amy Cooper situation, is that everyone was like, not everyone, but there were people who were like, as a dog owner, as a lover of human, like he shouldn't have. And I'm like, I'm trying to lead with love, trying to lead with love and patience and good intent. But then I'm like, there are signs all over that fucking area.
It's everywhere.
Leashed. Is that not a law? If we're going to talk about laws, are we not talking about the guideline? Where are our baselines of agreement here? So a law is a law. If you break a law, you face the consequences. Is that not the logic of reasoning, of discourse that we're about to have?
And you know that if it was the other way around, that is what I think about constantly. That he would be arrested.
She thought it was okay to take her dog into this area where there are lots of birds.
There's a field not too far where she was, like, there ramble. Exactly. If you know anything about Central Park, like, there's so much space. Like, there are full-on multiple dog parks in Central Park.
Yes.
4 dogs. So, like, she was just in the wrong. She could have easily just been like, I'm so sorry. She could have even, did a more acceptable lie and been like, I really didn't see the signs. Yeah. Or what have you.
Yeah, she could have like, I didn't see the sign.
Right. And then for people to be like, oh, like, it didn't have to be about race. He made it about race. So you're saying his existence there made it about race because the only person who brought up race was her. Multiple times.
As operative words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back to like analyzing a sentence structure. the operative word was not like, there was like not age, it wasn't like height, whatever, it was African American man.
But this entire time, you could have just put your dog on a leash instead of choking him. Poor Henry. Shout out to Henry. That's the dog's name.
Really?
Yes, dog got took.
Even before that, like, I went down the rabbit hole. He's had a lot of injuries, and as someone and as someone, I will say, who has a dog, my dog got a fucking scratch in the park, and I cried, and I was literally like, all right, we're not going to the, we're not having multiple injuries. Like, homeboy Henry had so many injuries.
Yeah, like, the way he was bobbing and weaving, it was like, oh, he knows how to get out of this chokehold. Like, he's had to get out of this before.
Yeah, like, was she like, first off, like, if anything, like, one-on-one, if you feel like you're in danger, get out of the situation. If she felt like her life was in danger, she has a dog. Put the leash on the dog and walk away. If anything were to happen, the dog will bite the man who was the aggressor, right? Because she knew that she could weaponize it. She knew that she could weaponize that situation towards her benefit, because history has proven that the police and society at large has her side. It's like if this was just a one case, if the one time we had one person call the cops on one black person, then we'd be like, oh, okay, let's have a conversation. Maybe she did well. But this has happened repeatedly over and over and over again. And it's been documented from happening like ever since like black people set foot on these shores. And even before that, it was the Native Americans. Like, Jesus Christ, the whole trope of black man rapist has been used to weaponize and criminalize and imprison so many people.
If I didn't go to school for Black Studies and theater, like, all that history would just stop with me. Like, it actually blows my mind how much of, those classes are not, more widespread and more like readily available for everyone. Because if you just can take like one basic African American history class, that doesn't start from slavery, because that's not when we just, appeared, it's true. It's almost like American history, like, literally is just like, and then God provided these black, strong, athletic, baby carrying people to help us to manifest our destiny as we continue to, pillage and colonize the rest of the world.
I remember one of my things in like I grew up in the South, like in North Carolina, and that's not even like South, because there's worse South.
There's deep South.
There's deep South. There's like, but I remember in the history books of like the way they spun the Civil War. The way like, oh, it was an economic thing. Like, it was just like the South just wanted more like economic freedom. The end. But it's like, why did the South want economic freedom? What was the South's economy based on? Oh, cotton, tobacco, black, free, slave labor. And people were trying to free the slaves. That's why they got so angry. Like, like shit like that, where I'm like, oh.
Like, just take one more step. Just take one more step and you'll be there.
One more step. Or like, I mean, I'm seeing it like in the Asian community recently, and it's something where, because the coronavirus brought up a lot of feelings of fear within the Asian community, and rightfully so, because they're like, we're scared for our lives. But I'm like, you were already scared for your life before this. This was always happening. But also you're able to have these movements now because so many other people, so many black people did the groundwork for you to get to this point. And just because they're asking you to listen to them right now and to say, we need help, doesn't mean they're saying your pain is not valid. They're saying, hey, maybe now you kind of understand what we're going through on a daily basis, and maybe you can help join us, you know?
Maybe we're more alike than you think, you know? Like, like, once, there's a huge history of that in the United States. Once people, like, connect and they're like, oh, all those things that white people told me about your people is wrong. And then they're like, oh, all those things that white people told me about your people is wrong. And it's not just based on the fact that you and I know each other, or, you know, or the three of us are even having this conversation right now. It's based on the fact that, like, stereotypes have been used to just destroy human relations. So, you know, from the very beginning, you know, you have history. You have Bacon's Rebellion, for instance, where you have white Irish indentured servants and black slaves who were enslaved Africans. Sorry, that's a better term. Fighting together to be like, this is unequal. This is ridiculous. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna, you know, come together? And they, like, rebelled. There was a whole rebellion, which is what I'm calling what's going on in Minnesota. Once white folks were like, okay, Irish people, you're white now, it was just like, oh, sorry, bye, you know.
It's
like,
the same
later.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Asian American community of, like, our proximity to whiteness makes us think we're white. And
you have a vested interest in whiteness because it is economically satisfying to you. Yeah.
It's okay that, you know, just because we're not experiencing racism now means that we're forever protected. It's around the corner, you know?
Exactly.
Why?
My parents have always had the same sentiment about the Holocaust because their parents were in camps. You know, they live with that fear. Even as, you know, Jews are acknowledged white now, even they understand what gratitude they should have for what they have.
Yeah, I think it's that inability right now to see the common enemy, that we all have the common enemy. And like you were saying, like, to just take a step further or just take a step back and look at things from that macro level of, oh, this is an ongoing struggle. This has happened before. And the times where we've succeeded were times when we actually worked together. You know, like, how did we protest the Japanese internment camps? How did we protest the Vietnam War? How did we do all these things, the civil rights, because we all worked together.
Yes.
You know, but, you know, everyone wants to, I think it's, I don't know, what I'm sensing is, like, a lot of people come to this conversation hurt and unhealed, and at any moment it's a powder keg, because, you know, the ability to listen is hard, and the ability to be vulnerable and be able to have this discussion where it can attack your sense of self is hard to have, especially if you're wounded. And so that's what's happening.
The problem is everybody's a little wounded, right? So why can't other people just bring themselves to the table, like, grow up and just sort of accept that you're
it's hard to pinpoint everyone's level of pain and where they come from, and to place a judgment on that. I think, I mean, that's where the listening stops. Where I'm constantly having to remind myself to listen because there are moments where I'm like, you're just, the other side of me, it's like, I don't have time for you. But then it's like that person will retreat and disengage and be hurt, and in the long run cause more, if not irreparable, harm to a movement, to the growth of themselves and others, and pass that those biases and that racism on because they weren't heard. There's a line of, like, will you listen? Are you ready to grow? Or, like, I don't have time for you. I'm trying to find that, like, balance. Also, because I have the privilege of time right now.
Yeah, it's a really tough time. But I do think that when you are ready to come to that table and look in the mirror, basically, at what you haven't done and what you need to do. That's only something that I hear that from both of you. You just need to do that for yourself. You need to do the homework, and it starts with being creative. It starts with finding different sources of knowledge and getting that advice, but not seeking it out. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a person that puts that on other people, that you have to educate me. You have to be my whisperer, you know? Like, you need to find the groundwork for yourself. There's plenty of literature out there. There's so many resources. And I think it starts with walking away from social media for a second, because there's so much on there.
Yeah. And no one's listening behind the keyboard because you're busy typing out your reply, you know, and you're already projecting your whatever that other person's thinking, and you're like, that person's an asshole, I'm gonna respond in this asshole way to be this, you know, because fuck them, they just hurt my feelings. And I mean, I notice it with myself. There are moments where I'm like, I need to take a moment, I'm gonna go do something before I go respond to this, because my point of view might not be the right point of view right now, because I'm bringing so much of my own chip on my shoulder to this table. And also, like, they're just trolls.
Oh, so many that's another thing. It's a lot of them are just trolls. Like, there's been so many times where someone, you know, will say something completely ridiculous and ignorant on the internet, and, you know, the fire begins and it just bursts through my fingertips. But there are so many times where someone will come through after my brilliant rebuttal and say something even more poignant, say something with even more truth and facts, and I have to question, like, especially when it's depending on the subject matter, did I take up space where someone who is more, you know, directly impacted by this could have, you know, reacted. Social media is really such a huge distraction from, like, what we could be doing, but it's also where we're going to be putting the flyer for our protest, and where we're going to be putting the, you know, the meetup information for our, you know, our strategy meeting, and that's where it gets sticky. It's like this is how we communicate now. Like,
something you said about space really resonated with me, because it's, you know, that feeling of like, this is not my space to speak up, but I have I should say something
because you have the education.
Yes. Education. But also at the same time, I think a lot of people feel a sense of, I don't know, I'm noticing it more of like, when they question it, the uncomfortableness of having the discomfort of having to question their space, you know, and instead of reacting to, like, you know, going like, oh, maybe that's not my space to speak, maybe someone else has more to say, maybe I should listen, maybe that's okay that I'm not saying anything right now because I'm processing. But a lot of people don't. They go, someone just called me out, I'm responding now, because if I don't, it's life or death on the social media world.
Yeah.
It feels very life or death kind of thing. Time doesn't feel real. Time doesn't feel real in terms of, like, allowing you to process, you know?
Well, I think social media was really made into something that helps and eases the ego and gives you a platform. That's where it was misconstrued. But now we realize the importance of social media in a time where we literally have to stay together while staying so far apart. And social media is being used to actually distribute information. The problem is we worried so much about our ego for so long that there's too much information. And I'm worried that the important information gets lost.
Yeah, and nowadays everyone thinks they're smart and have the right to say things, when it used to be like the minister, like, gave you the facts and things and you just absorbed it because you were a peasant kind of feeling, you know? I'm like, now everyone thinks they're like king, even though you don't have the PhD or the information to back it up, but you have the platform to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I get to say whatever I want, regardless of whatever anyone thinks, because I have this freedom now. And I'm just not saying like, oh, it's freedom of speech, but we don't have to hear it. And you don't have at the end of the day, it's like you have the freedom of speech, but you don't have the freedom to hurt someone else.
Exactly. That's basically, that's what it says in the Constitution, is like, and people think that because they're saying things that they're not hurting someone, because it's not like my words can physically hurt you. So like, of course I should be able to say whatever I want, you know, but that's when you're gonna get into like sticky waters, because, you know, you have folks who have made their money because they were really smart at one thing, because they were really, really good at one thing. And then because they have all this money now, they've amassed all this money, so now we must obviously seek you out when there's a major world problem, because like, you know, you had all the answers to that one problem, so now you must have all the answers for this one. It's like, why are we not listening to the experts and letting, you know, folks with 10 million followers tell us, you know, that, you know, tell us a manner of things that, you know, I won't divide our audience up with conspiracy theories, but like there's just so many, and so many of them are like really convincing, and so many of them are just in the zeitgeist now. It's like, what, you know, what do we believe? What do we actually have here?
Yeah. What happened to source checking? Like, I remember like having to write an essay and I wouldn't be allowed to use a fucking source or say anything unless I cited it like 15 different ways.
Exactly.
Because I believe so wholeheartedly that the earth is flat. It is. Like that, if there's like one conspiracy theory that I'm like literally like, I can't with you guys. I can't even condone this right now.
I have no space.
I have no space for this. Like, I have space for other conspiracy theories, but this one, no. Like,
it makes no sense.
No, what is your logic? What is your argument? Like, give me something. Because if you can write a whole like thing on it, a dissertation, then maybe I can entertain it. But there's so much evidence that says that the earth is like a spherical shape.
It's also so basic that it's like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah, what is this the cross you want to die on?
Why?
You know, there are so many like things that you can like
really advocate for. Yes,
What are your favorite conspiracy theories besides flat Earth? Each of you.
I know that I don't know. I just love watching people try to prove that the moon landing was fake. I
like that a lot. Yeah.
Like try to figure it out and being like, look, they did it in the set. And I'm gonna think on the second one while you.
Mariah, what you thinking?
Yeah, we're really gonna divide up the audience with this.
Let's go. Let's go. See if I care. Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe, and this might be just because I have a 5G phone, but the 5G towers. You know, I can more so see the towers being like more surveilling, maybe, you know, maybe like violating privacy rights. I don't think they're giving people coronavirus, and again, not just because I've had this phone since January, but because the science, there's no substantial science behind it. And if you're freaked out enough, which I mean, I definitely was in March, you could get, you know, really caught up in the idea that like, this is the thing that's making everyone sick. And like, you know, I have to go burn the towers down. Like, you know, like it's just such a slippery slope. And I already have trouble sleeping. So
well, I'm like, I mean, there was a moment where I was, there was the whole theory that the coronavirus came from an American lab in China and all that stuff. And there was a moment where I was like, if I read one more article, I will believe this bullshit. I will be so convinced.
I was one video that keeps getting longer and longer and longer away from like going to live in a bunker somewhere. Please drop your bunker suggestions in the comments. Thank you, right below. we need a bunker just in case it all does really pop off.
They already have bunkers in the Midwest. All these
That's right. Yeah, at my school, at my like preschool, there's a bunker with like a shit ton of canned food, and it's wild. They had to like open it up 10 years ago, and like a kid got in there. It was so everybody knew, and he took
Write
pictures.
that down.
Oh, it was so funny. It was
I know I'm not gonna survive if we have to do it because I'm like not into the.
yeah. This show is probably been my favorite one so far because I've had to talk the least and I've learned the most. So how about that? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy to say that like I don't know anything. Most people don't, right? I think you would need my sister knows a lot. She's a PhD in neuroscience and child development.
Ew.
She is like a rock star and a beast, and we fight all the time, but she's generally right about most things. She's as crazy as all. But I will say that people just have to be a little more understanding about what they don't know. And the sooner they embrace the unknown, the easier it's going to be. For the love of God, just shut up and if biking is listening.
No, we don't want to kill you.
No.
I don't want to kill you. I just want people to see that, you've been benefiting from a system that for so long has been rigged in your favor at the cost of lives of other people. Like, and it's okay that you didn't know until this moment. Like, it's okay, but as long as like if moving forward, make a change. It's like I think, I don't know, maybe it's because I have an acting background, but it's like, for me, there's that first day of rehearsal where I come in and I don't know if I know the play enough. I think I've done the work I needed to do, but we have to have a read through of the play. And I just have that fear of like, oh my God, as soon as I open my mouth, they're going to fire me because they made a mistake. And like,
Yes.
Relatable.
Yes, exactly.
For like a month or a half, you have to have rehearsals and you're constantly making choices that are right or wrong. And someone's always like, okay, let's do it this way. You're constantly like having to be okay with like, I'm wrong. I just have to commit to this 100%. And then we're going to like recalibrate things. But you have to admit that you know nothing going in.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people are okay with that. But the thing is, it's okay not knowing. No one's going to hurt you for not knowing. No one. I'm not going to die the first moment you admit, like, I don't know this. It's okay with that question. It's okay for asking for help. It's okay not knowing. And yet so many people are so afraid that it's like, we got to get over that fear, because if we get over that fear, then maybe we can have a conversation and for change.
Exactly.
That's excellent.
Lastly, what are we all watching? Everyone wants to know, Carolina, what are you watching?
I'm rewatching 13th by Ava DuVernay.
Yes.
Oh. What is that? I haven't heard. I know Ava DuVernay.
You gotta watch it. Oh my God, you have to watch it. It's about the 13th Amendment. I want to rewatch it too, actually. I watched it with my family and I watched it on my own. I think I also watched it in school because it came out when I was getting my Black Studies degree. That movie did such a great job of explaining what the 13th Amendment, which is the prison amendment, how the 13th Amendment secures free Black labor for up till now, up till today. And
when it came out there, I watched it and there were so many things that like I missed, and now I'm like really going through it, and it's just like, the semantics of the 13th Amendment, because it's like, we free slaves, that's what it means. But we can have labor, forced labor, prison labor if they're criminals. And so then the process of like, how do we make these people into criminals? Oh, it starts with the PR. It starts with, from the beginning, making them the oppressors, making them to be seen as rapists, making them to be seen as dangerous to our sense of self. And from there, that's always like, that's been done, like it's been going on. And like to this day, it's now it's you know, low income housing, it's schools, it's, you know, oh, you know, like, oh, we don't want to desegregate schools because we don't want to take these kids away from their neighborhood. Oh, but why do these kids have to live in these neighborhoods? Why is there why is there the projects? Why is that a thing? It's not because, you know, these people living in it cannot provide for themselves or not. Why can't they provide for themselves? What happened in the family unit that was destroyed that forced all these chain reactions of, like, you know, with the whole like welfare, I could go forever, like the welfare, the social security, the all this stuff, Medicaid, whatever. Why do these people need it? Oh, it's because they're lazy. No, that's the stupid rhetoric. It's because of all these things generationally that has gone to that point.
The things my parents had to do to keep us like out of, you know, falling into the cycle of poverty and the systems of poverty that constantly are reaching out at you, especially like if you're a person of color. You like it blows my mind sometimes like, when I think about, you know, the things they had to do or the things they saw fit to do. I feel like the 13th gives a beautiful illustration.
And it's,
everyone should watch it.
Yeah, it's very like digestible. I'm watching it with Vass, who's never seen it before, and you know, it's crazy. It's able to like see it through his eyes, like from a foreigner's eyes, who's never really had to. There's like shit in his country, but
yeah,
like it's class. It's between like it's not to like the fact that like our country was founded on slavery, kind of.
Right.
Grappling with that today. So it's like seeing it from his eyes and being like, and seeing his like, what? It's like, yeah.
Well, then I'll tell you, Carolina, I've been watching this incredible Apple Plus series. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Little America. And it's a anthology series about immigrants. And what I love about it is that, and I think Vasil would like it too, because it has nothing to do with like the process of immigration. They take away all the tropes of the immigrant story and they just make it about Americans and about how a kid has to run a hotel while his parents got deported and dealing with that responsibility of running a business at 11 years old till you're 18, and then you don't see your parents until like a decade later, or like the mom who like keeps on trying to win cruises for her family and eventually she wins one and they're teenagers by this point, and it's just so exhilarating. I couldn't recommend it more. And I'm watching Betty on HBO.
America does not make it easy for its like people of color immigrants to survive in America. Like it's hard to get the process, to get the papers, to be able to constantly prove that you belong in a country. And it's a lot easier for Western Europeans than it is for everyone else. Bass is like Eastern European, and like it would be another podcast episode of like seeing like the shit that he had to deal with. But even he had it luckier than a lot of other people that I have that I know who come from not a European country.
Yes.
Like you get one chance to make an impression. You get one chance to like have that moment. Otherwise, and then you have to be beyond reproach. 100%. You have to speak the language. You have to look like the people. You have to be able to be of the same religion. You have to eat the right thing. Like all these things you have to do right so that you can even walk in the room.
Yep.
And that's the crazy thing of like Jesus Christ, like
performing nationality. You're performing heritage. You're performing a nationality.
Yeah. A lot of it, you know, you have to have. And having like being a first generation, my parents came here, like the privilege that I have of, because I know they work so fucking hard, and you know, going along, like you were saying, like seeing those moments where they can, the hands will grasp you back, like every single moment you're able to escape those little cycles of poverty, the cycles of crime, the cycles of everything it's like a fucking badge of honor that you're like
a new level.
Yeah, it's a new level. And it was something where I was like, I was the first in my family to go to college, but I could only go to a state I could only like, for me, my biggest rebellion was like to major in acting because, you know, they work so hard. And if I were to do that, I could only go to a school where I was not going to get any debt. But every day, you know, just seeing those things of like now looking in hindsight, oh, there were those moments where I was so close to being so many the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on, and you are far beyond a statistic to me, man. You are seriously the first person I think I know from the theater community I started in that like actually went on to go on Broadway, and seeing you get to do that, as much as like, you know, understudies have it crazy, you know what I mean? You show up and you do what you can, and like sometimes you get called to do it and sometimes you don't, but
it was a big lesson in ego.
Mm.
It was like, you're here to serve a greater purpose. And it's so weird because like as an actor, you're like, I just want, you know, like the applause at the end of the night is really great, you know, but then to see other people get it and you don't get it, you know, because you're not performing. And then you can be like, really, I know a lot of other understudies who get really toxic. And for me, I was just like, this is actually a great time. I'm using this money to work on my theater collective. I'm working on a play. I'm doing all these other things because this institution is paying me money.
Yes.
And I need to get out of that fucking mind zone, because just because someone else is getting attention doesn't mean that it's anything against me.
Exactly.
Right. Validate your life.
Yeah.
You sort of also have your own kind of world where people, you know, I've seen that with me, like that's how I've learned to be a cheerleader, because people cheer for me and then I want to cheer for people who deserve that shit. You put the work in, you write your own work, you create your own stuff, and you stand up for everything that you've been taught, and it's beautiful.
I hope to always do that. I mean, I hope that my friends and I hope that people call me out when I'm not. I don't think I ever want to get to that place where I feel like I'm right, or like that's when I say like I'm not a leader. I don't consider myself that, because that's just another like ego shit. I don't need that. Right. Because I know that there's that other side of me that's like, I want to be in front of, I want to be leader, like I want the attention, but it's like that is that helping the greater good of the community, or is it just for me? And if it's just for me, then that's not good. I don't want to be that person. I try to not be that. I got to continue to not to be that person.
Absolutely. And that's beautiful. We don't have enough people who like, and it always blows my mind. And I learned a lot about this in women's studies, where it was like, you have these huge movements, and usually at the head of them, it's just like, this man said we should all do this, and he led the charge, and blah, blah, blah. When meanwhile, it was a lot of, you know, women, mostly women of color on the ground doing all of the work. Like,
he's taking care of it.
Yeah, he just showed up and did a speech. Right, but we got all these people here.
Yeah.
We made sure they had something to eat.
Yeah, who's like fact-checking his speech right now, because it definitely wasn't him.
Exactly.
You know, like things are like, Coretta Scott King like deserves a lot more.
So much.
Because she got MLK to be a national holiday. You know?
Literally.
Well, that's why I love celebrating like Michelle Obama, right? Because you see that Netflix documentary and like, I don't know, Barack is like the equivalent of like a day player on it. And it's so funny.
In my next, oh yeah, we need to protect Michelle at all costs.
All costs.
Amen.
All costs.
On that note, I'm gonna try and end this.
That's the one.
You guys can follow Caroline Doe on her Instagram at Caroline Cato, right there. And you could check out her theater company, the Sống Collective, at their website, thesongcollectivenyc.org. Thank you, Carolina. You're the best.
Thank you for having me.